My man.
All right.
Okay. Jingle Jangle does what it's supposed to do, and where we at?
Yeah. Right. So Jingle Jangle makes some really strong noise. You know what I'm saying? And I think they're definitely positioned, to have a career. Like the Legion really was a strong group, and it was self-contained. Like they did the production for the most part on their own. Um, I think other than the three tracks that Long did, Showbiz did a track, and I think maybe I did a couple of tracks. You know what I'm saying? And the rest of it was all of them. You know what I'm saying? Like my man Molecules, who's very dope. I initially offered the deal to just Molecules. You know what I'm saying? Because Molecules was a roadie for us, and so I would bring him on stage with me sometimes. To just spit freestyles, and he always had rhymes. He was always nice. So when I got the deal, I initially just offered it to Cubes. I didn't even know Dice and Chuck. You know what I'm saying? But those were his dudes, and he really believed in them, and he felt like for some reason he didn't want to be on his own. For some reason he didn't want to be a solo artist. You know what I'm saying? So like I trusted him. I was like, you know what? If that's what it is, that's what it is. Cool. And like that was the beginnings of us really becoming like, family. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we really got real close. But Q's was my dude. And I met Q's through Chi. You know what I'm saying? Chi had introduced me. And I met Chi through Chris Slighty. You know what I'm saying? And even the whole Chi thing, like Chi wound up coming to the studio one time with Chris Slighty, and everybody's looking at Chi and looking at me and looking at Chi and looking at me, and and we just took an instant liking to each other.
If I can interrupt you for a minute, I had Chi on for about 3 weeks ago, and he had nothing but great things to say about you.
That's my
So
dude, man. Like
yeah,
like that's my dude, and you know, it got to the point that instead of him hanging with Chris Slighty as hard as he was, he started hanging with me real hard. And like he's around me when the album is blowing up. So I'm I got cool with his parents because it got to the point where like, all right, well, we about to hit the road and go somewhere. Like, you want to come? He's like, yeah. Oh, so I chop it up with his parents. And like they had to trust me. You know what I'm saying, to take Chi out. You know what I'm saying? So like I began to feel like that was my little brother because, like I was responsible for his well being. You know what I'm saying? So I always kind of, had to be mindful that, like he was already smoking weed before, before I handed it. And even then I'm like, like even then I always had, I, I'm not going to say remorse, but I always wondered, like, when she went through some of the things that he wound up going through, it was a time for a lot of retrospection. Just in retrospect, I'd wonder if, like she grew up fast too.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and it's always the little things that wound up playing part in the bigger things. You know what I'm saying? So little things like me passing them a blunt, or I know for a fact, she got real close with cats that I grew up with. You know what I'm saying? And cats don't really know my story to the degree that it exists and that and how real it is. But she does. You know what I'm saying? And she would come back to me later and he'd say to me, he'd be like, like, now I get it. Now I get why you always stepped away. You know what I'm saying? Now I get why, what I'm saying? Like, don't get it twisted. I love my dudes and my dudes love me. But she got in more trouble with my dudes than I did. You know? like you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it was my peoples that he was running with. You know what I'm saying? And he'd see me like, all right, yo, I see y'all later. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's shut this down. You know what I'm saying? And they were going to go do what they do. And I wasn't. You know what I'm saying? But once it got to the point where Chi was his own man, I'd be like, come on, Chi. And Chi might be like, yo, I'm going to hang out with fam. All right. You sure? All right. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I grew up with that. And I had to make a conscious decision to not. You know what I'm saying? And we all and my dudes always respected that because they knew where we came from. They knew what, they knew what it was. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And they always had my back just like I always had their back. If there was a situation that I could put them into that was good for them, they got the alley-oop. And same back at me. But I always felt like that made us stronger. You know what I'm saying? That we played our positions. You know what I'm saying? And you know, like I said, sometimes it's the little things that wind up catapulting into the bigger things. So, so Chi was around me a whole lot, and he saw a lot of things, but I think he was really young and trying to figure out where he stood amongst it. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you bump your head in the process of finding yourself, and sometimes it hurts, and that's what it was.
So
So back to the publishing, so like I go back to do, and I let him know, like nah, they don't want this deal, and I expected him to renegotiate, like to come with a better offer, like why would you try to put them in the same shoes that you put us in, knowing that that wasn't a good deal, that was, it wasn't a fair deal, it might have been a better deal than some other people had gotten, but we were worth more, and I knew that today. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't know it at the beginning, but I knew it now. And instead of him sitting at the table with me and then us coming, to a meeting of the minds, he really flexed on me and let me know, like, yo, I'm the president of this company. I don't think they're as talented as you do, and I'm gonna release them. And it was literally nothing I could do. You know what I'm saying? And mind you, our second album was dropping at the time that their stuff is coming out. And the whole staff that was working the project was a whole different staff. Like when you have success with a project, it's almost like winning a championship. So everybody that's on that staff that had success with you can now get big paper at another label. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, like you won a championship and now your point guard goes over here because now he can get paid over here, and your forward goes over here because they can get paid. That's kind of what happened with us. And the whole staff was a whole different staff for the second album, and they didn't have the understanding of who we were or even of how we won to promote something that was a vastly different project. You know what I'm saying? And I'll listen to the second album today. Like the reviews and all that stuff will have you think that because it wasn't a wolf in sheep's clothing, it wasn't dope.
right,
Second album was dope. It just wasn't a wolf in sheep's clothing. You know what I'm
right,
saying? And they, along with how the president of the company was looking at us and how we're maneuvering, and we didn't deliver a poppy record, not that a wolf in sheep's clothing was, but we were able to kind of push the envelope a little bit in that direction. This was much more you seeing who I am, you know what I'm saying, and where I come from, and like it was just much a lot more of a street aesthetic to it. And he literally pulled the rug from under us, dropped the groups, literally dropped them, and that was it. Like I had nothing. There was nothing I could say. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't go back and like make it happen again. You know what I'm saying? And it really hurt me because the Homage album was amazing, an amazing album, and I never got to drop not one song off of it that was coming from me, the owner of the label. You know what I'm saying? Like he picked the first single. It didn't do what he wanted it to do when he dropped them. And I was like, yo, at least give me the chance to release a single from him. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Like we picked Flavor of the Month. We picked The Choice Is Yours. You know what I'm saying? Like we did that ourselves. Like y'all didn't tell us. You know what I'm saying? Like give me the chance to do that. With Jingle Jangle, like when the Legion did that, I was like, oh, that's it. We brought that to the table, that this is the first single. And it had the potential to be huge. If anything, they didn't push it to the degree that it should have been. Like it could have been a much bigger record. So when he dropped them, and mind you, at the time, I'm looking at Long like, like, yo, I don't want to belittle his character because Lone's a good person. But I didn't feel comfortable standing next to him anymore. You know what I'm saying? It had gotten to the point where I didn't feel like I owed him anything anymore, and I didn't feel comfortable standing next to him as men. So when all of that happened, it felt like everything around me was just I was in a dangerous place. You know what I'm saying? I was in a place where if you don't step back, something's gonna go really wrong. And I
Right.
think I had enough sense to just step back. You know what I'm saying? And my whole thing became, I can do this again. And regardless of what anybody thinks, I know what I'm capable of. I know, I know where my head is at. And I know that, you know what I'm saying, like, I know there's things that I need to know, that I need to learn, you know what I'm saying? Like all of the things that just got done for us, I need to learn how to do the stuff myself. So I stepped away. I went down south, I bought a crib, and I put together my own independent label. And I put together this project called the Short Shot Redemption. And I manufactured it. From cassette to vinyl to, I did everything on my own, the production, everything. I did everything on my own. But it was just me learning. You know what I'm saying? It was me learning how to put something together, how to market something. Like literally was selling out of the trunk. And I was real early online. I was online when nobody was online. I was trying to sell music online, but nobody was there yet. You know what I'm saying?
This is around 99, right?
Nah, this is before 99. This is like 96, 97.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like no one was online yet. Like
Right.
I was online. This is when AOL was gone. You know what I'm saying? And so as people started getting online, I was already there waiting for them with a project. You know what I'm saying? And like I was a little early. I was early to go to Charlotte as well. Like I was, even when I left New York, I was debating between Charlotte, North Carolina, and Atlanta. And I felt like Atlanta kind of was already what it's gonna be. Let's go somewhere where I can kind of be in the roots of something growing. I kind of saw Charlotte as being the next Atlanta. And today it kind of is a really blossoming city.
Mm-hmm.
But I was there way early. You know what I'm saying? And the same as online. I was online way early. You know what I'm saying? But the lessons that I learned in the process were invaluable to me. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? Like I learned how, I learned everything about the marketing of, about the manufacturing of, you know what I'm saying? Like how to approach radio, you know what I'm saying? Like I started building relationships that most artists don't have because the label's doing it for you. You know what I'm saying? Like most artists just try to create and deliver the creation. Like that was just the beginning of what I did. You know what I'm saying? Like I really took the time to, and to this day, there's people that are like, yo, I bought the Short Shot Redemption from you. You know what I'm saying? This, that, and the other. And
And the
I'm
hand.
proud of that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I know everything that it took for me to put that together. You know what I'm saying? Like, so every show I was doing from there, you know what I'm saying? Like I had a bag full of CDs and vinyl and this, that, and the other, and I'm learning, and I'm making, like I sold thousands of those, you know what I'm saying? Like on my own. And so I'm learning the process of doing something for myself. But like I said, I was really early in Charlotte, and it got to the point that I was like, you know what? I gotta go back to New York, you know, and I was ready to, like I was ready to go back to New York with everything that I had learned, and just start, just start from the floor.
Right.
And when I got back to New York, I literally was, starting from the floor. I had to kind of establish myself as a brand, you know what I'm saying, to start as far as, doing shows, letting people know that I was back in New York, and that, like when I was in Charlotte, like it's a big difference being down south and being in New York or LA. You know what I'm saying? Like the opportunities were nowhere near what you get the chance to put your hands on in a major city. So once I got back to New York, I had to start navigating, you know what I'm saying? So one of the things that was a blessing was De La started bringing me on the road a lot with them. You know what I'm saying?
I saw you in Indianapolis at the Vogue with them.
That's what's up. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that was kind of like I had been off the set as far as people were concerned. If you wasn't in Charlotte or in Carolina for the most part, you didn't really see me. But down there I was heavy, you know what I'm saying? Like down there, like and I was with some of my dudes, you know what I'm saying? So I was real strong. I was strong down there, I had my own crib and I'm putting my music together and just had really strong situation down there. But that was very much just a regional look. So now I'm back in New York and I'm hitting the road with De La, and De La's, you know, they're global. So now, you know, like I'm not only traveling all over the country, I'm traveling all over the world, reintroducing myself. You know what I'm saying? And from there, I started putting together, I believe it was the 8WM project. And I didn't see Sanford, but I was in favor. But just to say, at the end of the day, well, I was in Sanford for 1 year. But just to say, so I started putting this project together called AWM/Novocaine, which was another independent project and a dope project, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, like that was the beginnings of me slowly rising again, you know what I'm saying? Like cats hadn't heard from Black Sheep, or me rather, in a few years, and kind of just thought that I disappeared, which I hadn't. I just was kind of putting it back together, you know what I'm saying? And so with each project, more and more people were starting to be like, oh, Dres, this and the other. They wasn't seeing Lone, but they was seeing me. But the brand was starting to reappear. You know what I'm saying? And though the brand still isn't near us at our pinnacle, it exists in the marketplace. You know what I'm saying? And that's because of what I did. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Right.
something that me and Long got to the part where we really stepped apart, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, and that's what it is. But it's almost like I guess getting a divorce, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like that part of your life is over. You know what I'm saying? And you move forward from there. And that's just what it is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I got love for him. I got love for what we did. But that aspect, that marriage is done. You know what I'm saying? And I'll always love him. I always have love for him. He'll always be a little brother to me. But I'm not in that relationship anymore. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I'm sure we both have our views of it. You know, I would never try to act like I was perfect or anything like that. Far from. You know what I'm saying? Like I definitely know, you know, I have my ways. But I definitely know what I stand for. And I definitely know that as a man, like, you know, like, even when I'm wrong, like, you know, like, I'm man enough to come to the table and admit my faults and try to correct them and, you know, just be a stand-up dude about it, because that's what life is, man. Like, you're not going to always be right, you
Right.
know, and you got to be man enough to correct yourself sometimes. And it's not like it's Wu-Tang where there's 9 cats that need to come to the table. It was always just me and him. And so I always felt like, you know, like, yo, if you can't just come to the table with me and correct what needs to be corrected, then, you know, let's leave it at that. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to be man enough to come to the table. And, you know, that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? And there's no bitterness on my side. You know what I'm saying? And thank God I don't feel like I owe anything like that. And we still reap plenty of benefits